The name Ed Gein sends shivers down the spines of those familiar with his horrific acts. His story is one that has been etched into the annals of true crime history, a tale so macabre that it continues to haunt the collective consciousness. Gein, a seemingly unremarkable man from rural Wisconsin, became a symbol of depravity. Living in a secluded farmhouse, he was the epitome of an unassuming neighbor, yet beneath this facade lay a mind twisted by dark obsessions and a life marred by tragedy. His crimes shocked the world. The discovery of his gruesome acts sent ripples of fear and revulsion through the community and beyond, as the true extent of his depravity came to light. Gein's case continues to fascinate and horrify, making him a ghoulish icon in true crime history. His story has inspired numerous books, films, and documentaries, each attempting to unravel the mystery of what drove him to commit such heinous acts. This essay delves into the disturbing life of Ed Gein. We will peel back the layers of his existence, examining the events that shaped him, and the dark path he ultimately followed. We will explore his troubled childhood. Born to a domineering mother and a weak alcoholic father, Gein's early years were fraught with emotional turmoil and isolation. His mother's strict puritanical beliefs and his father's neglect created a toxic environment that would leave deep psychological scars. We will uncover the gruesome discoveries at his farmhouse. The horrors found within those walls were beyond imagination. Human remains repurposed into macabre artifacts, a testament to Gein's twisted mind and his morbid fascination with death and the human body. And we will examine the psychological factors that contributed to his transformation into a notorious killer. Gein's psyche was a labyrinth of dark fantasies and repressed desires, influenced by his mother's oppressive teachings and his own growing detachment from reality. Gein's story is not for the faint of heart. It is a chilling journey into the depths of human depravity, a stark reminder of the potential for darkness that exists within us all. It is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary individuals. Gein's outward appearance gave no hint of the horrors he was capable of, making his story all the more terrifying. Join us as we unravel the enigma of Ed Gein. Through meticulous research and analysis, we aim to shed light on the factors that led to his descent into madness and murder. This essay is an exploration of true crime and aims to provide an objective account of the events. We will present the facts as they are known, without sensationalism, to offer a clear and comprehensive understanding of Gein's life and crimes. It is not intended to glorify or sensationalize Gein's actions. Reader discretion is advised. The story of Ed Gein is a dark chapter in the history of crime, one that serves as a grim reminder of the depths of human depravity. Edward Theodore Gein was born on August 27, 1906 in La Crosse County, Wisconsin. His upbringing was far from idyllic. His family lived in poverty. Their isolated farmhouse became a breeding ground for dysfunction and despair. George Gein, Ed's father, was an alcoholic and unable to hold a steady job. He was a weak and ineffectual presence in the household. Augusta, Ed's mother, was a domineering and religious fanatic. She instilled in her sons a deep fear of sin and the outside world. Augusta's influence was pervasive. She controlled every aspect of their lives. With her husband largely absent, she had complete authority over Ed and his older brother Henry. The Gein brothers were isolated from their peers. They were forbidden from socializing with other children. This isolation, coupled with their mother's oppressive presence, had a profound impact on Ed's psychological development. Augusta Gein's influence on Ed was all-encompassing. She believed the world outside their farm was a den of iniquity. She preached to her sons about the evils of women, sex, and secular life. Augusta reserved particular scorn for women she considered loose. She believed they were instruments of the devil. She filled Ed's head with stories of their wickedness, planting seeds of fear and resentment towards women. Ed idolized his mother, clinging to her every word. He was terrified of displeasing her. Her teachings warped his perception of the world and left him ill-equipped to navigate healthy relationships. As Ed grew older, he became increasingly withdrawn and reclusive. He retreated further into his own world. His only solace was the company of his mother, to whom he remained utterly devoted. Section 4. The Death of Augusta, Descent into Darkness. In 1940, George Gein died of heart failure, brought on by years of alcohol abuse. His death marked the beginning of a series of tragic events that would forever alter the lives of his family. George's passing left a void that was impossible to fill, and the Gein family was thrust into a period of uncertainty and hardship. Ed and Henry were left to care for their aging mother, Augusta. The brothers, though different in many ways, shared a common bond in their devotion to their mother. They worked tirelessly on their family farm, trying to make ends meet and provide for Augusta, who was the central figure in their lives. The brothers took on odd jobs to support themselves and Augusta. They did whatever work they could find, from carpentry to construction, always with the goal of keeping their family together. Despite the challenges they faced, Ed and Henry remained committed to their mother, who had instilled in them a strong sense of duty and responsibility. Tragedy struck again in 1944 when Henry died under mysterious circumstances. The loss of Henry was a devastating blow to the Gein family. He had been a steady presence, a source of strength and support for both Ed and Augusta. While fighting a brush fire on the family farm, Henry was found dead. The circumstances of his death were shrouded in mystery, and questions lingered about what had truly happened that day. The official cause of death was asphyxiation, but many believed there was more to the story. Although the official cause of death was asphyxiation, rumors circulated that Ed was somehow involved. The whispers and suspicions cast a dark shadow over the Gein family, adding to the already heavy burden of grief and loss. Augusta's death in 1945 devastated Ed. She had been the guiding force in his life, the one person he had ever truly loved and feared. Her passing left him adrift, struggling to find meaning and purpose in a world that now seemed empty and devoid of hope. He had lost his only companion, the one person he had ever loved and feared. The bond between Ed and Augusta had been intense and complex, filled with both affection and control. With her gone, Ed was left to navigate his grief alone, and the weight of his loss was almost unbearable. He was now utterly alone, consumed by grief and the twisted teachings of his mother. Augusta's influence had been profound, shaping Ed's beliefs and behaviors in ways that would have lasting consequences. Her death marked the beginning of a descent into darkness that would ultimately define Ed's life. Ed sealed off the rooms his mother had used, keeping them as shrines. These spaces became sacred to him, a way to preserve her memory and maintain a connection to the past. The act of sealing off the rooms was symbolic of Ed's inability to move forward, trapping him in a cycle of mourning and obsession. He began to withdraw further into himself, his mental state deteriorating rapidly. The isolation and grief took a toll on Ed, and he became increasingly detached from reality. His behavior grew more erratic, and those who knew him began to notice the changes. It was during this time that his fascination with death and the human body began to take a sinister turn. What had once been a morbid curiosity evolved into something far more disturbing. Ed's interest in anatomy and the macabre became an obsession, leading him down a path that would shock and horrify the world. Section 5. The Missing Hardware Store Owner, Seeds of Suspicion. Years passed, and Ed Gein continued to live a solitary life on his farm. The farm, located in the remote countryside, was a place of eerie silence and isolation. Ed's only company was the memories of his domineering mother, whose death had left a void in his life that he could never fill. He was known in the local community as an eccentric odd-job man. His disheveled appearance and peculiar habits made him a subject of gossip and speculation among the townsfolk. Despite his oddities, he was generally considered harmless. He was quiet and kept to himself, rarely interacting with others. In November 1957, the small town was rocked by an unsettling event. Bernice Warden, the owner of a local hardware store, went missing. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community where everyone knew everyone else. Her son Frank, who was also the town sheriff, noticed that the last purchase recorded in his mother's receipt book was for antifreeze. This small detail would become a crucial piece of evidence in the unfolding mystery. Ed Gein was the last person known to have bought antifreeze from the store. This fact immediately raised suspicions given Ed's reclusive nature and the timing of the purchase. Frank Warden went to the Gein farm to question Ed. The farm, with its dilapidated buildings and overgrown fields, was a stark contrast to the well-kept properties in town. He found the place in disarray, but Ed was nowhere to be found. The eerie silence of the farm was broken only by the creaking of old wood and the rustling of leaves. However, Frank made a gruesome discovery in the shed. The sight that greeted him was beyond anything he could have imagined. It was a human body, hung upside down and dressed in a skin suit. The macabre scene was a testament to the horrors that had taken place on the farm. The body was identified as Bernice Warden. The confirmation of her identity sent a wave of shock and grief through the community. The authorities immediately launched a full-scale investigation of the Gein farm. The once quiet property was now a hive of activity, with police officers and investigators combing through every inch of the land. What they found would shock the world and solidify Ed Gein's place in the annals of criminal history. The discoveries made on the farm were beyond the realm of normal criminal activity, revealing a mind twisted by years of isolation and obsession. The case of Ed Gein would go on to inspire countless books, movies, and nightmares, forever etching his name into the dark history of true crime.